Hello, I'm PJ Bishop. Welcome to my channel and the ongoing series with the Oakland A's. In this video, we're going to go over the lineup, which I like. I like more, especially defensively. I think defensively we're much more solid this year than we were last year, and I think that's going to really help us succeed. Speaking of much more solid last year, good player plays center field, center fielder. I like setting up as a center fielder. Actually, no, left fielder. You look better at left field. Gives you a 50-50. So let's go ahead and go over the lineup. Starting with the leadoff man for right-handers. So J.J. Bleday is our leadoff man versus righties and bats seventh versus lefties. He is our full-time right fielder. Last year he made the All-Star team. I don't think he was deserving as much as Rooker was, but he did make it. He does sport above average power, which is his thing, and he's got really good looking gap power. Not going to be a guy that hits for average, as his contact is low. Average strikeout rate, so he should be doing okay, and he can steal some bases. I like to see his power tap in. What did he have last year? Looks like he's had a decent spring training. Nothing overly over the top, but if he could play like this throughout the season, for me that's a win. Last year, I would say below average overall, especially with the average being 207. That's a really low average. Ideally, I would like my entire team to be hitting 250 or better. I mean, that's obviously ideal. It won't happen. But if he can do this, I know this is only spring training, doesn't mean too much, but if this is the slash line he can have over the season and still provide good defense, which he does. He's rated 60 at right field. I like his arm. That's why he's there. And he can steal some bases. So, for what he is, he definitely has good value for me and my team. We'll see what he does moving forward. Our number 2 guy versus righties is our second baseman, Dario Hernandez. Now, he is second baseman versus righties, and he bats number 2 as a left fielder versus lefties. So he's splitting time between second base and left field, where he's really equal as far as talent-wise. Again, as you can see defensively, he should be above average at both spots. Because last year our defense was really sorely lacking. Now he is a guy that should be hitting for a high average. Looks like his spring training, again, very small sample size, and you're going up against a ton of pitchers, some that get sent back to the minors, so it's a little misleading stat-wise sometimes. But again, a decent-looking stat line for a slash line for his spring training. But he's a dangerous hitter. He's a guy that should be hitting for a high average because he's not going to be hitting home runs. And he's average when it comes to hitting in between the gaps. He's got an average eye, so his on-base percentage should be okay. But his main thing is putting the ball into play because he's got plus bat-to-ball skills with really good avoid K at 65. And he's good on the base pass, above average speed with good stealing ability, and of course, like I said, his defense is above average at both second and left, where he'll be finding himself this year. And he's only 23, so he's a young kid in the lineup. Last year, he wouldn't. Last year at this time he was in Double A. So that's the funny part. That's how life can quickly go from Double A, thinking maybe you got another year before you're in the majors, to now you're in the starting lineup full time as a second baseman and left fielder. So pretty cool journey for this kid. Definitely has to improve this line. This line can't stand. If this is what he does, if it continues like this, he's going to get sent back down. So he's going to have plenty of opportunity to earn the full-time gig. Our number 3 guy is Mauricio Dubon, he's a center fielder, batting third versus righties, and I believe is actually sits versus lefties. Yes, I have him sitting versus lefties. So Mauricio has now been demoted down to just a platoon versus righties. So you should still see more of the action. Again, as you can see here, defensively he's good. It was good last year, so that wasn't the issue. Spring training looks like it was a struggle for him. That's not good. We got him with a trade from Houston last year. I thought it was a good get for us, but he hasn't really been playing as good for me as he did for them. And he's not, overly old. At just 30 years old, he should still have plenty of good seasons ahead of him. Although spring training looked rough. For Houston, he was hitting above 300. For me, he hit 235. That's a big difference. That's almost 10% difference. That's a lot. That's a night and day difference between the quality of player that we traded for and what we got. So he definitely needs to pick that up. Otherwise, that's a trade we for sure lost. Batting cleanup is catcher Shea Langoliers. He bats cleanup in both. I know I signed Carson Kelly to be the starter, but I'm going to give Shea an opportunity because of his power. Although it only shows up as above average power, it plays well. And hopefully we'll see some big games from the young kid. I mean, he didn't do spring training, didn't look so great. And defensively, he's fine. He's above average defensively, so he's not a total liability there. And he can also steal a base or two here or there. It's his power. If his power doesn't come together, then he's going to be back possibly in the minors. I don't want to. I would like for him to develop and play well. But as you can see in real life, he did hit over 20 homers in 2023. Last year, he wasn't a full-time starter. He only played in half the games, or just one game over half the games. So he didn't start, and he started less than half the games, 76 starts. He was kind of starting on and off all year, depending on how good he was hitting. Hopefully, it'll click at 27. Batting fifth is designated hitter Seth Brown, and he is solely batting versus righties, surprisingly. So Seth Brown is only batting versus righties, but he's the DH versus righties. He's got some power. That's why he's here. He's here for his power. He's got good enough power. Defensively, he's still solid. He could play first. He could play left. He could slide in for right. In a pinch if he needed to, center field. But it's just not wasn't good enough defensively to be the starter there. But he's more than capable of handling a DH slot. Now, of course, spring training looked horrible for him, but I believe last year was decent. He below average last year, so I don't know if I can have another year like that, especially out of the DH spot. A DH you expect to hit some home runs and drive some runs in, because that's your only job is to hit. So you need to be a good hitter. Batting number 6 is first baseman Armando Alvarez, and he is not first baseman he's a first baseman batting 6 versus righties, DH batting 6 versus lefties. So same spot, just different position. And he's a good first baseman. He's 60 first base, really good looking. He's still carrying over from last year. I think he's better than his ratings suggest. I wouldn't be surprised if he jumps this year and gets some weird TCR bonus that actually shows him way better than he is. Because you can see his spring training was really strong. And last year, for me, he played pretty well. Finished the year with an 838 OPS, which was way better than I expected. Hit over 300. And that was in 205 at-bats, so the sample size was getting up there. 51 games, 51 starts. You talk about maybe a third of the season. So he was getting up there as far as games played. And it was kind of exciting seeing him hit well because he actually outdid his AAA performance, surprisingly. It looks like he's having a strong spring training, so perhaps he is actually for real, and it's not just some sort of a fluke that's going away, like some of the other prospects that I had that showed some fluky tendencies that I knew couldn't hold over for a long period of time. Batting seventh, and one of my more exciting players, because he's young and entering the lineup, is left fielder Denzel Clark. Now I have him batting seventh versus righties playing left field, and fifth versus lefties playing center field. So he is good enough defensively to play any position. As you can see, he's really good defensively. Again, I don't think our defense should be an issue this year. Still ranked as a prospect, number 87. And only 24 years old, still under 25. Not for much longer. His birthday is May 1st. But I like what he can provide for us. He's still growing as a player. He's got room to grow to average contact. The strikeouts are always going to be a little bit of an issue, but he should be able to hit for a decent average, have some home run potential, obviously be a danger on the base paths with good base running and can steal bases. And he can also hit for doubles, draw the walk. So he should be an overall, defensively solid. So overall, he's a really, in my opinion, a really good player. Don't let the spring training fool you. Really rough spring training. Even last year, he was below average as far as what he did for us. This was all in the month of September. So it's a small sample size, just a month, but I think if he can just pick that up a little bit and get better and develop, we got ourselves a full-time left fielder, center fielder for many years to come, as he's only 24 years old. Batting number 8, and finally in the position where I want him to be, is our third baseman, Zach Geloff. I think he's a better third. I mean, he could still play second. As you could see, his ratings did improve as a defender, but that arm strength should play at third base very well. And he's now, I think his ratings have improved a little bit since last year because his power is kind of there. Like everything about him reads average to, but I think is above average. Plus, he's got really elite stealing base. He can steal bases at an elite level. He's had a solid spring training, and I think he could continue having a good solid year. He's only 25 years old, so still plenty of room to grow. I don't think he's reached his peak yet. Led the league in stolen bases. 90 stolen bases last year. I think if he's fully healthy and plays well the entire year, there's no reason why he can't crack 100 stolen bases and at least 20 homers. So 20 and 100 is definitely not something he shouldn't be able to miss. But it is cool to see that he led the league in stolen bases of 90. And then batting ninth versus righties and lefties is shortstop Nick Allen. I know I signed Nick Ahmed to be our shortstop, but I'll show you in a little while why he's not the shortstop. And we can have TCR to thank for this, or just bad game development. But Nick Allen, defensively, he has improved. He is now an extremely good defensive player. The only problem with him is he is so horrendous on offense. If you need him to hit a home run, he's not going to. The only concern I have is why is he not hitting for a good average, considering that his strikeout rate is really good, and he's got above average bat-to-ball skills. So you'd figure to be better at putting the ball into play, but I guess not. Judging by the BIP, which is weird because you figure if he's got good contact, he could avoid Ks. But if he can just hit a little better. Just even if he's below average, I can live with that because this part will help me out. And of course, this part here, he's such an elite defender. The range is there, the air is there, the arm strength is there, everything there for him to be an excellent defender. He's only 26 years old. You hope he can somehow just a little better here would go a long way. Because last year, what do we have from him? Yeah, I don't want 577. That's a little too low. It becomes way less productive when he did hit a home run though. Still managed 56 stolen bases. We'll see what he can provide for us. Let's head over to the left-handed side. Some of the guys that we didn't go over is second baseman Nick Ahmed. When I signed him, this was all really his shortstop rating was really good. But as you can see, it just over the course of a few months, because we signed him in November, we signed him in December, and now in April, he is a shell of his former self in just a matter of months. He's struggling, of course, in spring training. I have him at second base because now he's better suited for second. He lost all his arm strength, which I don't know how you lose that in 4 months. His range has gone down. Air has gotten worse. But his turn-up play is fine. So we put him at second where I had him in spring training. He's gotten it up there. He could be a really pretty darn good second baseman. It's just a shame that he's lost so much in just a short span of time. Is he a free agent next year or this year? 2026, that's what I thought. Who else do we not go over? Abraham Toro. Not starting versus righties, but he is batting 3 and playing first base versus lefties. Still working at his first base, but it will eventually become a good position for him. No longer at third because Zach Geloff has now taken over that spot completely. But Abraham Toro, strong spring training. Someone who spent a long time last year at AAA. Well, probably just a month, but did spend some decent time down there because he struggled here. But finished fairly strong on the year despite a really rough start. Hopefully, no rough start this year. He can just hit the ground running and pick up where he left off last year and where he's currently doing in spring training, which is really good. What else have we gone over yet? That's it. Of course, we haven't gone over Esteury Ruiz. Now, Esteury Ruiz is an interesting character because he's good. He's another one of those guys that should be getting on base or hitting better than he is. Now, judging by spring training, it looks like he has done so. But that's just spring training. His value comes at his outfield utility, where he's capable of playing left, center, or right. And of course, his on-base skills are unmatched by pretty much anyone in the entire league. Last year, in just 47 games, still managed to steal 24 bases. Now, if he could go back to becoming a full-time starter, I think he could easily crack 100. His issue is, will he ever crack as a full-time starter, or is his calling to be a permanent backup in case someone gets hurt or they're tired? And then, of course, our last guy to go over is Carson Kelly, our free agent signing, who also dropped. As you can see, his catcher rating has dropped, which made me less prone to play him over Shane, since Shane has more of an offensive upside, and he can also steal bases if needed. Carson Kelly is really a one-trick pony, and that trick now is gone because, again, I think TCR is he's only 30 years old. He's in his prime. Why would he get so drastically worse when he's still in his prime? He's 30 years old, and everything just dropped. It was all in the blue. I signed him, and 3 months later, he's just above average. I wouldn't sign a guy that's above average. This isn't what I would sign. It's frustrating how disappointing this game is when it comes to that kind of stuff. Like, guys don't just instantly drop off in 3 months. Of course, he struggled in spring training. He did okay last year in a small sample size, and he might end up doing something similar this year. It's just unfortunate where he is as far as skill is concerned. So that's it. That is the lineup. We got 4 videos coming up over the next few days, going over the different prospects that we have. We have so many top prospects. It's going to take me a while to get through all the videos. So that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next few ones going over the prospects.